Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Today is Monday, April 28th, 2025, and today we are going to be doing another open lines. I did one on Saturday. It may have been a little too early for people. Just got finished with the draft. My goodness, that was a big cluster, you know. But everything's going back to normal. They said between 3 days, 600,000 people. That's ridiculous. And being that the population of Green Bay, Wisconsin is 108,000 people. So I want my small city back, and we got it finally. All right. So like I said, open lines. If you want to be on, talk about whatever subject you want to talk about, 920-777-1697. And I'll get you on. Just text me and say, hey, I want to talk about this. I'll send you the link. All right. Okay. So the first thing I want to start off with, not much into the political spectrum. I really try to stay out of politics as much as I can. But sometimes some things, just when you watch them either on X or YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or what's that other one, Instagram and all these other ones, TikTok, it really gets you upset, you know? So I have this one guy who seems to think that maybe baby boomers, should give up their Social Security so they can pay off, so the Social Security can pay off their student loans. I mean, look, you go to college and you take out a loan, it is your obligation. I don't care who you are. I don't care what color or race you're from. So I don't want anybody accusing me of that. You are, you have a priority. I would say priority. Yeah. It is your duty to pay back the loan that you took out with interest. All right. All right. Let's listen to this idiot.
How he's going to force us to start paying back our student loans by garnishing our wages.
Hey, you know what? If I don't pay back a loan that I took out from the bank, guess what they're going to do? They're going to garnish my wages. Somebody doesn't pay their child support, guess what they do? Take it out and garnish your wages. That's what they do. You got the loan. It is your obligation to pay it back with interest. That's it. If you don't want to take that loan out, then don't take out the loan if you don't want to pay the interest or pay the loan back. That's as simple as it goes. All right. Tell you what, just to I'll make it easy on everybody here. What I'm going to go ahead and do, because I've already got some people, I'm going to put the link. I'm going to put the link in the chat. Okay. If you want to come on. Here we go. There you go. There's the link. All right. I'm going to keep going with this guy.
Borrow a goddamn dime. I was 17 years old. My mother forced me to take out that loan.
Oh, that's a bunch of horse shit right there. You took it out because you wanted to go to college.
If I didn't, she was going to throw me out and make me homeless. The boomers should have their goddamn retirement accounts and Social Security checks garnished for forcing college onto us, forcing us to take unsustainable loans. It's just screwed up. Trump started talking about how.
Oh, okay. So it's the boomers' fault for them taking out the loans. I have to say that that's not true. Not true at all, everybody. If I made the choice right now to take out a loan, that I'm going to take one out, but I have to pay it back with interest. That's how it goes. All right.
Hey, Jason, how are you? Okay. What about the poor people? What about the poor people? I understand the loans because, I had to take a loan all my life out to make it through life. I mean, even if we bought a new recliner, it seemed like we had to take a loan and make them payments. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I understand that. But what about, because this student loan thing, I see the good in it and I see the bad in it. Because it isn't fair that some of them busted their butts and had to pay back every penny. of this. But then you got the people that's been struggling to make them payments, that can't survive. I mean,
let me tell you this. Let me tell you this, Barbara. When I was 18 years old, I took out a loan for $1,000 to buy a guitar and an amplifier. Okay. I was living in my car. That's how poor I was. Didn't even have a house. Okay. And you know what I did? I didn't pay the loan off. I was working.
And it ruined your credit for life, didn't it?
No, it didn't. It didn't ruin my credit for life, but it ruined my credit. And they garnished my wages.
Right.
So whether you're poor or not, it doesn't matter. You make the decision to take out a loan. And the thing is, a lot of these kids, Barbara, they take out the loan to go to college for degrees that are irrelevant. I mean,
right.
Who the hell wants a degree in gender studies? Where are you going to be able to get, find a job that pays like a 6-figure salary with that degree?
And I know a lot of people that just take out these loans, they get their check or whatever, and then they just stop school. I know a lot of people have done that, and I understand. I mean, there's a lot of bad things that go with this, but then I look at the people that have struggled. I got a friend that she's still paying off her school loan after like 20 some years, working and got her degree and graduated. Right. And she's still paying off this loan.
But how was she paying it though? Was she paying just the interest?
Yeah, I don't know.
If you pay, let's say you have a credit card of a $50,000 credit card debt, okay, and all you're doing is they show you how much you owe, then they show you the interest. Right. If you just pay the interest off all the time, that loan's not going down. All you're doing is paying the interest. So 20 years from now, and so I still owe 50,000. Yeah, because you just been paying the interest. That's it.
A house payment. Our loan was for 33 years. 17 years in, we ain't even touched the house yet. We're still paying on the interest. I mean,
that could be an unfortunate thing about getting loans out, especially high loans, like in the hundreds of thousands or whatever, like these people do. The interest, it will kill you.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and like you gotta be careful because it will ruin your credit. I mean, and then once you get that credit thing going, it's hard to straighten up. I mean, I ain't saying you can't straighten it up. You can straighten it up, but sometimes it's hard to straighten it back up.
You know how I got my credit score back?
How?
I went out and I took out, I got a credit card that had a $500 limit. Okay. That's all I could use, but I didn't use all 500. What I did was I would buy something for, let's say, $20, $25, right? When the paper came in saying I had to pay it, I paid it off completely. With the interest, just paid it off. Then I did it again and again. And every time you pay something back in full, your credit score goes up.
See, that's what I'm working on now since, the divorce and everything. I just got my little credit card in the mail, and I'm going to be doing the same thing because they said that's the best way to get your, I'm thinking, why should I even try? I'm old. Shoot, by the time I get my credit straightened up, I ain't going to need no loan.
Divorces ruin a lot of credit.
Oh, yeah. And amicable. See, I was in the middle of radiation when I lost my job. And so my interest was only good to the end of the month. And I was $500,000 in debt by the time my radiation was done,
Yeah.
Do nothing but file bankruptcy. Well, it took me forever to pay that off.
Bankruptcy also ruins your credit too. Yeah. So I know. But the thing is, you got this guy, like it was just on there saying he should have the people who were going on Social Security to not go on Social Security to have that money used to pay off their loans. It's like, no, those people worked their whole lives for that money. Right.
And that's another thing people want to yell about Social Security. People are like me. I worked 48 years. 48 years I've worked. I deserve this. And I just now got a federal funding for housing, for senior citizens. I'm 63. I deserve this. Everybody can talk all they want and how low of a person I am. No, I feel I worked hard to get this,
Sure, I
I
understand.
finally got a little break here,
Yeah.
Kids
So,
are grown.
Stuff like this just angers me. It's
Right.
like, yeah. So you made a stupid mistake, but you were young, you took out $100,000 student loan. Well, everybody makes mistakes, but you have to be held accountable for your mistakes.
Right.
So
Yes.
you have to pay it off with interest, whether you like it or not. And I've
Right.
heard some people say, well, it's going to ruin my credit. So what? Oh, believe me, when you get to be our age, oh yeah. Oh yeah. These kids think their credit scores don't matter. They matter.
Oh, they matter. Yes, they do.
You want to get a house, you want to get a brand new car, you want to anything like that, you got to have good credit. There are even jobs that won't hire you if your credit is low.
They now even get an apartment. You got to have a over $600 point credit score. They fill out an application with a $50 deposit. I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. How these people with no credit score ever going to get an apartment or a house?
The reason why they check your credit score is because if you have a high credit score, 600 or above, that means that you're paying your bills.
Right.
If your credit score is just in the tank, they're going to say, well, this guy doesn't pay his bills. That's why his credit's shot. We're not going to give him the apartment because we know he's not going to pay his rent.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. So everybody is watching. I did put the link in the I put it in the comment section. Okay, mine's a little shot right now. So if you do it from there, or you could just go ahead and text that number right there, and I'll send it to you that way. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I got this other one here where this lady says that she's not paying her student. We're just talking about the credit score, okay? So watch this. All right.
Government keeps threatening all these things they're going to do to people if they don't pay their student loans. I don't think they realize we don't care. We don't have enough to care. We don't care about credit scores anymore. We don't care if you siphon our paychecks. We're just going to quit and move on to the next company because that company was probably going to fire us anyway.
First of all, I have to say something about that. If if they start garnishing your wages from your job and you just go and I'm gonna go get another job, that way they don't garnish them. They don't seem to realize that when you're filling out your applications for a job, you have to put in your social security number, and they can track you. They can track all your earnings. They can track everything, your debts, everything with that social security number. So if she goes and gets another job, they're just going to start garnishing the wages on her new job. And
another thing is work history. You got to have a good work history. Right. I see so many people jump from job to job, to job. I lived in one house for many years, and I kept the same job for many years. And when I got up to the working as where I was hiring, that's something I looked for. Did you stay at this job for a long time? I mean, if you job jumping, no good company wants to hire that.
Yeah, exactly. So she's missing a few screws. Yes, she does. Here we go. We got some more here.
Okay.
People don't stay at jobs like they used to. People aren't locked in to a job they have to stay at for 35 years because they're getting a pension and great benefits.
I've been at my job for 25 years. I don't plan on leaving. I plan to retire there. So
right. And then you got your pension and your Social Security, right?
Yep, Social Security, 401k. Yes, right. I have all that. So,
well, my son just retired from the Army of 20 years at 38 years old. He went in at 18. So he's got full retirement now at 38. He's doing really good. He bought a nice farm. He's doing really good. Now he's a school teacher for the blind and deaf.
I've known people that do that. They'll go, to the military at a young age, get out when they're like 38, like you said, retire. So they get a retirement from that. Then they go get a job, work 20 years. So they'll be, what, 58 by then?
Right.
And they'll collect another retirement check. So it's like there's two of them there. So now that's pretty good.
Right.
You know? Yeah. That's definitely. Plus you get the VA benefits. You get the GI Bill.
And I didn't know that we were talking this summer. They don't have to pay. I think it's the whole retirement thing, but they don't pay property tax after the 20 years. You know, so the farm he bought, you don't have to pay the property tax. I'm like, man, that's a big relief though. Somebody that's got a big property.
Well, like I said, they get VA benefits, so if they need to, health care, they got that. They got the GI Bill, which pays for your college.
Yeah.
You know, you have to maintain a certain grade point average, though, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
But they pay for your college.
Four bachelor things or something. He went to school the whole time he was in there. Yeah. I'm like, oh, no, now look at you. Just a school, you know.
Smart
but he
kid.
told what he wanted to do, and that was to help the kids. He said he wants to start teaching history in normal school. He wants to teach history.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
All right. Let's do some more here.
Those things don't happen anymore. So if you threaten to siphon people's paychecks, they're just going to quit and go to another company because that company was probably going to go bankrupt anyway and fire everybody in the next couple months. This is going to be so much work for the government to siphon paychecks, and it's not going to get them enough money.
First of all, the government doesn't siphon your paycheck. No. The company does, and then they send it off to... So the government doesn't have to do anything. They just receive the money. You know, so here we go.
They're going to end up losing money because they're going to have to hire thousands of people to try and get this money from people that don't have it. They're going to end up spending more money than they get in the long run. So these empty threats that they're giving us, they aren't scaring us. If the government's watching, it doesn't scare us. We don't have enough for that to scare us. So I won't pay the hospital then if you take my student loans out of my check. It's one or the other. We pay our health care and our medical bills, or we pay our student loan bills.
This woman obviously doesn't know what a budget is.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, exactly. You have to budget your money.
Yeah.
You know? So, but a lot of these kids now, they just, I don't know how old this lady is. She's probably like maybe in her 20s, but they just spend, you know, put it on the credit card, It just, and that's what happens. You start building this debt, and before you know it, it's just overwhelming to the point where you're just paying the interest.
Troubled teen industry, a lot of us, we didn't have life skills. We didn't know how to do a checkbook, knew what credit scores were, how to take out a loan. So when we got thrown out in the real world, you know, I don't know about any others, but myself, I bought a house at 18, you know, and I got myself all in the financial mess because I had no idea what I was doing because we were never taught.
Right. But you knew how to type and sew.
Yeah, I was a good, and I still can. And cook and clean. But I tell you, Jason, a real man don't want a woman that can sew, cook, and clean. I'm telling you, they don't want a woman sitting at home now. For some reason, they're like, that's what you do, sit at home. Like that, what I'm supposed to. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to even get a date. It's like, ain't that what I was supposed to do? Sit at home? Ain't I supposed to be the homemaker here? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they want a woman that's out there working and makes more money than them to help pay their bills.
I guess. Yeah. I guess. I've always liked women that could make it on their own, but yet have the skills to cook and do whatever.
Right.
Not saying be a slave, be a housewife or a slave, but I'm saying, just contribute, and I contribute, you contribute, and everything, because marriage is or even being in a relationship, it's a balancing act. You have to balance, everything.
Yeah.
So I pay some of the bills, she pays some of the bills. Or if she can't pay it that month, I pay it. And then,
it's teamwork.
Teamwork. Exactly. That's the word for it. Teamwork.
Yeah. You can't be a team, never be in a marriage or a relationship. You got to be a team.
That's right. That's what it's all about.
Well,
or our credit cards or our loans. Like, we can't pay it all. We're not making enough to pay it all. We're not sitting back and living in mansions, going on 20 vacations a year like the billionaires and saying, I don't want to pay my student loans.
Okay, hold on. I don't live in a mansion. I make pretty good salary, you know. I don't go on 20 vacations a year. I probably, the past 2 years actually is when I really started taking a vacation, and I went to a campground and camped for a week. You know, so just because you don't have to live in a mansion or go on 20 vacations. All you have to do is just budget your money correctly. And that occurs, you know, you get that experience. Like I said, I had bad experiences. I got myself into some financial trouble when I was a young kid. So did you, you know what I mean? But we learn from it. We learn from it, and we gain the experience as we get older. I'll tell you, if I had the same mentality I do now, and if I could take it back to the young Jason at 18 and say, hey, this is what you need to do, I would do that.
I'll meet in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And then I would probably take a time machine and go back and punch Lester Roloff in the face.
You know, I think I would look at him when he's walking on that beach with me or whatever it was in the sand that day. I would look at him completely different than what I looked at him. Believe me. You know.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So, but anyway.
And speaking of real quick, I've noticed in our little group, a lot of people are starting to come forward and ask questions like, do you remember when we were taken here? Or remember when this happened? And before, remember, none of it existed. That didn't happen. You're a liar. You know, that didn't exist. So now they're starting to come out and people's memories are coming back and are like, I think I remember when Reagan shook my hand, or when we had to vote for Bush, and, you know, and different things, you know, where I always knew it was the truth, but, you know, but other people, their little memories are coming in and out, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, were you old enough to vote when you were there? You weren't old enough to vote, were you?
No, I wasn't. But when Bush ran, they had a big thing where if you are on the farm, you had to vote for Bush. I mean, it was like a mandatory thing.
Of course, you had to vote Republican. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how it is. If you're a Republican, you check off all the Republicans.
Right.
In the election year. Yep. Democrat.
Have you ever watched that documentary, The Boys for Sale, 1981?
No.
It's on YouTube. Lester Roloff is mentioned. He's mentioned in the documentary. Sure is. So it's on. You'll find it on YouTube if you ever want to watch it. But when I was watching it for a different purpose. But when I watched them, and then, you know, that it's just like boom, you know.
Yeah.
And that's 1981. So if they knew then, they knew before, and they know after, and it's still the same thing. It's a religious loophole.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, from what I've heard and what I've seen lately, the farm is just in shambles.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I said, all the roll-off stuff has gone to Arizona, where the regeneration reservation is. So they're barely keeping afloat.
$4 million Fort Thomas is worth right now.
Yeah.
You know, but Corpus Christi's done on. My friend on TikTok, actually, she drove by there the other day, and she made a video. Yeah, she made a video. She was there. She was taken there as an outsider girl for church, and I think her church went to visit Rebecca a couple of times as a kid, and she was raised IFB, and she's from Corpus. So, and she speaks Spanish, so she made one in English and one in Spanish. But
I've had a couple of people that have, in fact, there was one, Eli and Eunice. I'm not going to say their last name, but they contacted me, and it's like, oh, I remember them because they went to the elementary school.
Yes.
Yeah. They still look the same. They've gotten a little bigger, but they look the same. And then another lady named Dawn, She says she went to the elementary school when there was an elementary school on Park Avenue Street in Corpus Christi.
Right. Didn't you go there?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that's Lori Nichols went. Oh, I didn't mean to mention Lori.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Nichols.
Okay.
Yeah. Patrick. So, yeah, and I was looking at her, and then I don't have a yearbook, but I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, okay, maybe and then it finally hit me. I'm like, oh yeah, her. Okay. Yeah. So she's on my Facebook now. And so, yeah, I remember, when I was at the Park Avenue school, before I went to the farm there, because the Park Avenue school had like first, second, and third. And then at the farm, they had fourth, fifth, and sixth. Okay.
Now, Fort Thomas Regeneration Ranch, that lady worked at Park Avenue. She was at Park Avenue that went to Fort Regeneration Ranch.
Okay.
Gosh, Bradley, was her last name Bradley? Mary.
Oh, Bradley. Yes,
Is it Bradley?
I think
but anyway,
so.
People that run it right now have the same last name. And I'm thinking,
did she have like really curly silver black hair and these little tiny glasses? Yes, I remember her. I don't remember her first name, but I remember the name Bradley. Yes.
Yeah, and that's the people that's running Regeneration Ranch still today is the same last name. So I'm wondering, is it her son or grandson? I mean, did they stay there this whole time?
Right.
Because it's been open the whole time, you know.
I remember the principal of the school was Mrs. Copeland. I don't know if you remember Mrs. Copeland.
I don't know.
No,
the name sounds familiar. Almost sounds like I got licks from her or something one time. I swear, this is Copeland.
She was probably 6'2".
Yeah,
probably weighed 120 pounds. This woman was just bones.
Right.
She had this gigantic gray bouffant hairdo.
I think I got an old picture of her actually.
Yeah, big, gigantic, round glasses. But
because them are the shape glasses, I had them too.
She was the sweetest lady ever. Yeah. Yes, like Miss Yoder. Like Miss Yoder,
yeah,
she was the sweetest lady. Yes, I really liked her.
You know, and it's crazy.
Principal.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, the bad situation that it was, there were still good people. You know, there were still good people involved in this that, you know, people don't understand this was a cult. They were brainwashed. These people really thought they were doing good. They thought they were really helping us. And I think a lot of people, when we went down to Mississippi, we pulled a lot of archives and a lot of letters that were written in to, you know, the news stations and from people all over the United States, you know, trying to, you know, stick up for Lester Roloff and us and everything. And I'm thinking these people had no idea of the truth. You know, all thing they're hearing is on the radio or what they're reading in the news articles or what Lester Roloff is telling them or the preacher is telling them. Because no one ever acknowledged anything us children ever said.
And you always have your detractors. You know, I had one lady. What was her name? She was at the Rebecca home, and she became, I guess, married one of the anchor boys, and Dottie or Donna, can't remember.
Donna.
Yeah.
Donna married a lighthouse boy. Yeah.
And she was talking about how she was on the plane with Lester Roloff, and he was just, when he would fly, he was like almost reckless. I mean, he was flying really low. He'd take sharp curves. He was just almost like an acrobat.
You never really seen him come in, did you?
No.
On the plane. See, he did. He was really like, he did do little dives and tricks. He was very, very, you know, maneuver with that little airplane.
Right.
He did.
And of course, you got your detractors, you know, that we got comments on that video. No, he didn't. He was the safest flyer. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, you know, you're always going to have somebody to say, no, that's not true. But that's okay.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Was he parking his plane over at Cabinet's Field?
I don't know where the field is. Where's it at?
Corpus. It's in Corpus.
No, it's right there on the farm. Wasn't it on the farm?
Oh, wait.
We had the hanging.
It was close to the farm. Close to the farm.
Okay. As far as I know, it was on the farm, because it was we're very close to the farm. Because, Then like at Bethesda, they had the field right across from Bethesda. There was a big open field, and he would come swooping in there. When we went to Georgia, where the fruit trees was, he would do that little swoop thing and the little spin thing. And I mean, so, yeah.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I did have, and I hate to say it, but I had some good times there. I made some really good friends there, but I don't know.
It was our life. It's what we knew. I mean, the only Christmas I ever had was 1977 with the Manuses in my childhood, and that was there.
And
and so then we never had another tree or nothing.
I don't know if I ever mentioned this, but you know how Roloff was like Halloween. Halloween's the devil's day. You know what I mean? The Druids and the witches and all that stuff. Stay away from it. Don't go out and get candy or whatever. But he would have, and I know it's on one of the yearbooks. I think it's one of the yearbook that I was in. They to celebrate Halloween. I guess Roloff wasn't there, but they decided to dress up as Christian characters, shepherds and all these other things for Halloween. It's like, well, I thought you didn't celebrate Halloween. It's like some of these Christians now, instead of doing the trick or treat, they do what's called trunk or treat, where all the kids go to the church and they open up that's still celebrating Halloween.
Right.
You're still celebrating the devil's day. It's pretty hypocritical, I think.
Right. Yeah.
So whether you do it with good intentions or not, if you say it's bad and you do it, well, then you're going against what you just said. You're a hypocrite. So nobody likes a hypocrite.
Somewhere in the Bible, being a hypocrite's one of the worstest sins or something.
It should be. It should be. So, but
that's something that, so many Christians they don't understand. They don't even know their Bible. They do not even read the Bible. They'll just pick a verse, because if you really read it, if they did what the Bible said, there would be a lot of millstones around people's necks jumping in the ocean. You know what I mean?
That's true. And the thing is, they can do that. They can quote you scripture, but the minute you try to contradict that and say, well, it says this here, and you quote the scripture, they're like, oh, well, you're taking that out of context. You got to read the whole chapter. Oh, no, wait a minute. Why is it that you don't have to, but I have to?
Right.
There was one. Yeah, there was one. It was there at what's that guy's name? He was a preacher, a street preacher, and the guy saying, well, there's a contradiction in the Bible where it says that Judas, got the 90 pieces or 30 pieces of silver from the Pharisees and, went and hung himself. Well, that's in one of the books. In another book, he got the 30 pieces of silver and he bought a piece of land. It's like, okay, it's just two totally different stories.
Right.
So,
right.
There's a lot of stuff in there that contradicts. But of course, a Christian will tell you, I've told people before, I'm not an atheist. I'm not a Christian. I just choose to just remain neutral and say, you know what, whatever happens, happens. You know what I mean? Some people say, well, you don't know. Well, Bill Burr, he said, somebody's telling you know what happens when you die? He goes, well, have you ever been dead? Goes, no. He goes, well, you have no idea what happens when you die either.
Right. I just told my son that because I've been so worried about paying for my funeral and stuff, and he's like, Mom, quit worrying about this. I'm like, no, I got to make sure, things are set up and you kids, I don't want to be stuck with my bills and this. He says, we're going to donate your body to science. I said, Michael, you better not, because I know somebody did that and they didn't get the body back for like 2 years. I said, no. I said, how do you know what's going to happen? He says, you're going to be dead, Mom. I said, I know. You've been dead? What if they pull my eyeballs out and that hurts? I mean, you ain't been dead. Nobody knows what really is going on after death, because nobody's come back and said, hey, I lived through eyeballs getting ripped out your head. I said, Michael, please don't with the science.
I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, Do you remember what happened before you were born? No. And he goes, well, that's probably how it's going to be when you're dead.
Yeah, right.
Nothing, but then again, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
I was in a coma for 18 hours and I hear so many stories, these coma stories,
Oh, they see the lights and all that
all
stuff.
Let me tell you, for 18 hours, I didn't see nothing. I don't, I didn't remember nothing. I don't remember going into the seizure. And only thing I remember is when I did come in, I remember, now this is 18 hours later, my middle daughter was there and she come down. Mom, she hit me on my chest. Mom, hit me on my chest. Mom, the third time I'm like, what? And the doctor just looked, I tell her all the time, you traumatized me right out of a coma, but that's what I remember. Nothing before, and coming to was her screaming at me. But in the 18 hours, I didn't get to see the light, Jason. I guess I really ain't no light. I'm not going to make it to the light.
Was it hot? Was it hot? Were you burning?
probably closer to the hot.
Yeah, probably. But you've heard people those stories, where they were in a coma or they were close to death, and they all of a sudden they felt these claws on their hands, and they looked and they were demons. And then I became a Christian after I came out of it. It's like, oh please. The thing is, so many people are so brainwashed. They've had this whole thing about hell and God and heaven pounded into their heads. It's like they talk about hallucinations, right? And I've heard this. Some doctor had it on a video on YouTube. He's like, whenever you're actually dying, when your body is being deprived of oxygen and you are actually dying, what happens is your brain goes into a mode where you start hallucinating. That's why you see people say, like my wife's grandmother said, she was in the bed, she was dying of gallbladder cancer, and my wife was talking to her, and she goes, wait, hold on, he's here, I have to go now. It's like she could actually see him, he's on the train. I got to go to the train and go in there so I could ride with him. The brain was hallucinating. You see all the pictures, all the memories from back in the day when you got married or after you got married or whatever. All those come back, and your brain does some weird stuff. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe these people have had the thought of hell and torment, that when they are actually dying, that's what they see.
Right, maybe. I don't know, but I know when I had my anxiety attack, when I thought the rapture came that time, I mean, that shit was real. I can laugh about it now, but that stuff was real. I mean, I took that medicine, and I haven't thought about the rapture and that in probably 30 years. You know what I mean? I ain't even crossed my mind. And I woke up and it was dark and nobody was answering the phone. I couldn't get there was no movement outside. And for some reason, when I hit that ground in a full-blown anxiety attack, I thought the rapture came and I was left behind. I mean, it took me a minute to work myself out of that. Finally, I heard my neighbor. I went and she's like, Barb, what's wrong? She said, it's 4:30 in the morning. But I really thought the rapture came and left me behind in my head. Yeah. And I haven't thought about that, like I said, in 30 years. So that's how embedded that stuff is when it comes to that brainwashing and stuff like that.
In fact, we were just coming from breakfast, and we were talking about like some kid got in trouble because he said the Pledge of Allegiance, but he didn't say under God, right? So he got in trouble with the school he was at. And I said, well, okay, so he said the Pledge of, I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the Christian flag. And then I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the Bible. And then I said this. I said, I pledge allegiance to the Bible, God's holy word. I'll make it a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. I will hold it in my heart forever. That way I will sin against God. My wife's like, how do you remember that? I'm like, it's embedded in there. They beat that into my head.
Right, we've done it every day, for every day before school,
And you had to put your hand on the Bible,
Yep. Yeah. So, 3 pledges of allegiance every day for the Christian school. And do you remember the little flag, the little flag you had put in the hole when you had a question or something? You had to put the little United States flag up in the hole, from the whoever.
I remember my uniform. It was a blue or white shirt. I think Wednesdays we had to wear white shirt, but I had the tie that had the little American flags on it.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. I seen that in my little brother's pictures one time.
That was part of the uniform. You had to have that tie with the American flags on it.
I was just telling my counselor about that today. I said, we had to wear these little ties around our neck, and our little box had to be tied perfect. Or that is a demerit, and that would be, hang on. Oh, okay. Oh, where'd I go? Oh, okay, I'm trying to get back on here, my phone. I forgot to turn off the notification things. Yeah, and it popped up and took me out. But anyway, I was telling my counselor, I'm like, that we had to have that little box in our ties, just perfect. Or that'd be a demerit, and demerit is a lick. I said, we would stand in line for another girl to tie our ties to make sure, nothing happened to us.
That's, that was, we had, like I said, that was a daily routine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Daily routine. I don't remember the demerits, but I do remember a lot of the people that were there, like the teachers, Mrs. Davidson, and I think Brother Davidson, I don't remember his first name, but he was the principal of that elementary school. And you had Brother Martin, you had Mrs. Stagel, and there was another teacher who was, I guess, irrelevant. I don't know. I don't remember talking to her. So, Barbie still there? Maybe not. Maybe she hung up. So we'll have to remove her here. That way she can do it again. So. All right, we took her off that way. But if anybody would like to come on, I got about another 15 minutes left. And you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I want to talk about before. Oh, there she is. Oh, there you go.
So last week when we did the Family Warriors project, I couldn't get on for nothing. And my house just got burglarized and my internet, I forgot my internet was down. I'm running down the street. I got a laundromat like 3 blocks down. I'm running to the laundromat with the phone, trying to get on the internet. But I finally made it. So,
yeah, I got a lot of good responses from that.
Well, for us just starting, I think we got 3 weeks in, 4 weeks or something now. But it's starting to go pretty strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
actually, I think it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, since the whole group started, it's it's a whole, we just started, finding each other, getting it all together and stuff like that.
Right.
But, I mean, they're coming out, people are coming out strong because this has been something that's been corrupt for, everybody knows it, forever. And I
guess I could put it out now. If you have any story about horror story about your time with the youth or the family courts, please come on the podcast. Just
right.
My number is on the front of the channel page. You can get it from there. You can get my email. It's right down on the bottom here. There's plenty of ways to get a hold of me. So, all right.
So, and it's so crazy, Jason. Like somebody like me, I got no records. I'm still fighting that fraud case. A fraud case right now. Trying to get my own birth because it's my own birth name. Lord have mercy, I can have 3 different men's, 10 foster names, whatever Roloff gave me. But for me to have my own name now is an issue.
Yeah.
And I can't, it's like I have no records, what happened to the juvenile court? I understand it was a long time ago. I understand the systems were not up to date like today. I understand all that. But there's still got to be something. somewhere. You put me in a county jail. You sent me in front of a judge. You sent me to a home 3.5 years, but I don't exist. None of that exists.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so many kids like us. And now with this real ID coming out, a couple of Bethesda girls are caught up. They're in the same issue as I am. They got 2 social security numbers, you know, different names.
Right.
One is even a registered nurse. So now she's having it with the federal, you know, her nurse's license is all involved, you know.
Oh,
And I
no.
mean,
Yeah.
it's becoming a whole mess, you know. And then we're thinking, is this a roll? Is it the state thing? Did Roloff do it? CPS? We don't know where it came from or how it happened. We were children.
Right.
Now we're grown women with no identity. You know,
and
we don't exist.
And good luck trying to find records from Roloff's place. You'll never find those.
Oh, they did. Oh, you didn't. Do you know what happened?
No, please.
I can tell you, Jason. Okay, a lady contacted John, a Bethel boy. You know John.
Yeah.
And she contacted me too. I talked to her also. They bought the Anchor home. The Anchor home, the first one. Where was the first one? Somewhere in Katy, Texas. Was it Katy, Texas?
Was it the Intercoastal Canal, maybe?
Oh, that's the Lighthouse.
Oh, the Lighthouse. Okay.
I think it Katy, Texas. I think is the name of it.
When I was there, the Anchor home was on the farm, so it may have been way before that.
This is before they moved to the farm. I think it was called Katy, Texas. It was right by the farm, though. It wasn't far, and it was the Anchor home. It's been sitting empty all these years. They just purchased it 3 years ago, and in purchasing it and cleaning it out, they have found files, bank statements, large amount of money, bank statements. Now, this is just the Anchor home. This ain't got nothing to do with nothing else. I got some Bibles, some little pamphlets, and different things that was left there in Katy, Texas at the Anchor home. So some of it's got rain damage, some of it's got mold. They're trying to send off to get some of that professionally, you know, removed and stuff. But it's very interesting that they found bank statements. And she said they were very large amounts. So just think if that had that large amount, and you got the Anchor home was nothing compared to Rebecca, you know, and the babies and everything else. Just think how much money really was coming in there. So, but she did find some of the Anchor boys' records.
It makes you wonder if the Rebecca home, I don't know if anybody's living there anymore, but are there files and records in there hidden away? You know?
Well, I can say, I got a friend that, let's just say, that they were 5 years ago, put it like that. I don't know about now, but I do know there was a room full of boxes and yearbooks. I never knew they had 2 yearbooks. You know, they make 2 yearbooks, one for the public and one for us.
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't either until she got, because you know, she recorded some of it, and to see the difference in the yearbooks, you know, was really weird. The same yearbook, but they had one for the public and one for us.
I remember I looked on classmates.com because I had my yearbook, my high school yearbook is on there from 1990, and I tried to see if there was anything from you know, Rebecca Christian School or any of the homes from Roloff. Nothing.
Yeah, because even when I put it in like Facebook or anything, it says what school you graduate, and if I put Rebecca Christian Academy, nothing. Rebecca School, nothing shows up. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's no records, you know.
Yep.
And that's hard to tell somebody. Well, I have no school records. Well, what do you mean you have no school records? You didn't go to school? Well, no, not really. I kind of went to school, but I kind of didn't go to school. You know, I went to school, but I didn't learn how to go to school. You know, but I did learn how to be a good Christian wife. You know.
Yeah, I got lucky because after I left the elementary school, of course, you know, my dad, I think, was falling out of favor with Roloff. There were a couple of things that they were doing that he didn't like. So we kind of got away from there. And I went to school, middle school in Corpus, Winfield Junior High, from 7th, 8th, public school, okay. 7th, 8th, and 9th. I was the last 9th grade in junior high. This was 1985. Because they still had 9th grade in junior high. So when I went to Ray High School, I started off as a sophomore. Thank goodness I didn't start off as a freshman. So, right. But the next year, 1986, is when they put 9th grade in high school. Now, that was just for I'm sure there were places in other states that already had 9th grade in their high school, but this was just Corpus Christi.
Right.
So I didn't have credits yet. That's the thing. I didn't have credits. So, so I was able to graduate from that school.
And I don't think a lot of people realize when it comes to Roloff and these fights and Christian nationalism and Jerry Falwell Sr. and all that stuff, moral morality, that what really backed Roloff at the very, very beginning was the Texas Board of Education.
Yes.
I got so many articles and so many things that state this, and the Texas Board of Education and Roloff, they were side by side,
Yeah.
But they had a big part to play. Yeah.
Yeah. Homeschooling really wasn't a big thing back then.
No, it was just for fundamentalist kids.
And
really.
And the Amish.
Yeah, but the fundamentalist kids. I went to ACE school before I went to Rebecca. My mom's church had school. I think we had 30 kids in the whole school. Even though it was a little church, we all stayed at that church. We went to school at that church. That was teen night. We soul winning. Bus visitation on Saturday morning. I mean, no matter what, it was something to do with the church and that group of people and no kids. That's all we knew.
Do you remember those little tracks they used to have? Oh my goodness.
Yep. Yeah.
I think the most famous one, This Was Your Life. That was the main track that they had. They were always giving it to people.
Right.
When they went out soul winning.
Knock, knock, knock. Hi, I'm from Lester Rock. I can hear this bill now.
As they slammed the door shut right in your face. Yep. I remember that. We didn't do that too many times, but I had to go out a couple of times and watch them soul win.
Yeah. My mom's church is still ILP. My sister is a secretary, and my sister's husband is a youth pastor. Still the same, and nothing's changed. I don't go there because every time I go there, I have to hear how my mom's preacher was in the boys' home in Tennessee, and he's never really in the name, but and I do know there was a home in Tennessee, and Lester Roloff led him to the Lord. So, I just don't fit in there.
Yeah. And I know that, what's that guy's name? Jack Hiles.
Oh, Jack.
I was looking through the internet and I saw, this was from like 2022. And I looked at the website, and it said a former IFB pastor convicted of sexually abusing a teen is released from prison. I'm like, oh my God, who could that be, right? So I'm looking, and it's a guy named Jack Sharp.
Yeah. Sharp. He married Jack Hiles' daughter.
Yes, he was somehow related to Jack Hiles. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yes, he did. He did 12 years. He just got released, I think. I think she was 12 or 11. And, and Jack Hiles, he got in trouble because it went over the state line, with that little girl. But if you watch, there's on YouTube about the bus ministry, Jack Hiles in the bus ministry.
Yeah.
The guy in charge of his bus ministry was also convicted. And he became a pastor, convicted again. Then you got David Gibbs up there, defending it all. How the evil world, is attacking everybody and stuff like that. Yep, there he is. And
that's the guy right there.
Right. And he was very active with the kids and teen. I mean, you watch there's a thing at Hiles Church where he came swooping through the roof on a parachute. You know how they did in them theatrics.
Right.
And stuff like that. But yeah, I think she was 12 or 11.
Wow.
And Dave Hiles, Jack Hiles' son, he's had 2 sons that came up unalived.
Really?
The first son is still an open case in Illinois. If anybody knows any information, he was 18 months old when he passed. It's broken femurs, I mean, it's sad. If you see the pictures, it's sad. He passed at 18 months old, and and they told him if he goes back in that home, he would not survive the social worker or whatever. But of course, he was put back with the good Christian, preacher. Yeah. He did not survive, and Dave Hiles was the only one at home at that time. I think it was like 15 years later, another son around the same age. Accidentally was at world of accident, was in the driveway, accidentally got backed over and unalived. But that 2 children unalived by the same pastor from, Dave Hiles, Jack Hiles' son, at the same around the age area. To me, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
That's a red flag,
Definitely. Yep. So, yeah, evil people in this world, just so happens that they just happen to be connected.
Right. I remember when Jack used to come all the time to the farm. He flew in them little planes too. They come swarming in together. But and I was sitting there one time, and he was talking about blanket training. You know what blanket training is, right?
Yes.
Put the baby on the blanket, and you tell the baby not to crawl off. And I swear to God, Jason, my mouth, I couldn't even think. I mean, I just went there as that little girl that wore them bruises at that time, because he was saying, you need to beat that baby for 15 minutes until you see them bruises. You're thinking of a baby on a blanket. Who beats a baby for 15 minutes to bruise them? Yeah. Then you can hear Ron Williams from the Hepatitis House. He's on YouTube. I was listening to him preach. He's saying the same thing. Make sure you put the bruises where the doctors can't see them. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with these people telling their congregation how to abuse children and hide it, hide the bruises, and people listening and people doing what they're, oh yes, our pastor told us to do this.
Right. All right. Well, yeah, I might do something on Jack Hiles here pretty soon. I just gotta gather up some stuff.
I got an old picture of him and Lester Roloff together. Yeah, I got. Hey Jack, you want to play Prince till the end? because that's where he did Lester Roloff's funeral. Plus, he took the airplane. Took the airplane there. It was on Hiles Anderson with the monument. I mean, they made Lester Roloff this god. He wasn't God. He was an evil person. He was a child trafficker. I mean, no matter, because when I testified and gave my statement to law enforcement many years ago, he told me that. He says, you realize you were child trafficked before there was ever known as child trafficking. Yeah. I'm like, no, not really. But, now that I think about it, exactly. That's what he did. And selling babies, you don't have a right to sell any baby at all. Mothers, them girls did not say, hey, go sell my baby. Them babies were stolen, they were taken, and he sold them for cash money. Sorry, love gifts. He sold them for love gifts. Let's more that, right?
Love gifts.
Yeah. $250 to $500. I mean, Jesus Christ! This ain't a great God of men like people think they are.
Right?
The great God of men. And we was lucky to know him, Jason.
Very lucky. Well, Barb, I'm gonna have to take off. I got a couple of things I have to do. So, but
okay,
thanks for coming on. I'll let you know about the Jack Hiles thing. Yeah. Okay. We'll see you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
All right, for everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it, Barbara. So, for the Hammer Podcast, I'm Jason. You take care of yourself. Take care of each other, and we'll see you in the next podcast. All righty.